will begin as...
Okay, to be completely honest, if you have a reasonably large board, maintaining it is basically a second job.
As usual, the headlines first. Donald Trump's relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is very good, despite Netanyahu rejecting a US-backed Gaza plan. The proposal calls for a pullback of Israeli troops as Hamas disarms. A Russian attack in Ukraine, Zaporizhia, kills 5 people and wounds 20. Kyiv also comes under a ballistic missile strike as Moscow steps up its attacks on Ukrainian cities. China's Long March 7A rocket explodes shortly after liftoff from Henan. The mission fails after an in-flight problem with the cause under investigation. At least 132 people are dead after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake strikes Colombia. A state of emergency is declared with the death toll expected to rise as many people remain feared, trapped under rubble. And Donald Trump backs FIFA President Gianni Infantino despite allegations of a workplace affair and criticism over a failed investment scheme. The US president warns FIFA would make a terrible mistake by replacing Infantino, praising his leadership of the World Cup. A secret security operation unfolded at Ankara airport, just as Donald Trump was leaving the NATO summit. The president appeared to board the old Air Force One, but he didn't fly out of Turkey on that plane. Instead, he was secretly moved to a smaller military aircraft after a credible assassination threat from Iran. The extraordinary deception happened on July 8th. Trump had just finished the NATO summit in Ankara. Cameras captured him walking towards the familiar baby blue Air Force One. It looked like a routine departure, but behind the scenes, a different plan was already in motion. According to a Washington Post report, Trump boarded the older aircraft as expected. Then came the secret move. An airport catering truck was brought up to the aircraft. Trump was transferred inside the vehicle, and instead of remaining on Air Force One, he was driven across the airport to a smaller US military aircraft. The operation was designed to hide the president's real location. Journalists traveling with Trump believed he was on the older Air Force One. Some White House staff reportedly believed the same. The press cabin was even told to keep its window shades closed. The aircraft had effectively become a decoy. And when asked about the revelation of Trump's secret flight on a third aircraft, the White House said this.
The new Air Force One is a state-of-the-art aircraft that has been fitted with high-level security protocols that ensure the safety of the president and his staff. As the president has said recently, there are many enemies of America who have their sights on him, and we use every tool at our disposal to address those threats.
The operation was designed to hide the president's real location. Journalists traveling with Trump believed he was on the older Air Force One. Some White House staff reportedly believed the same. The press cabin was even told to keep its window shades closed. The aircraft had effectively become a decoy. And when asked about the revelation of Trump's secret flight on a third aircraft, the White House said this. The reason was a serious security threat. US officials had determined there was a credible threat to Trump from Iran and allied proxy forces. Earlier, intelligence had raised concerns about an attack targeting the president or his aircraft. And with tensions between Washington and Tehran escalating, the threat was treated as real. There was also a question hanging over the new presidential aircraft. Trump had arrived in Ankara on the newly renovated Boeing 747-8 donated by Qatar. But that aircraft did not have all the defensive capabilities of the older Air Force One fleet. That made the decision to switch aircraft more significant. Before leaving Ankara, Trump had publicly explained the change differently. He said he would take the older Air Force One for old time's sake. He also said the new aircraft would travel to RAF or RAF Mildenhall in Britain. US service members there would get a chance to tour the plane. There was a precedent. In 2000, President Bill Clinton used a similar deception while traveling to Pakistan. He arrived on an unmarked executive aircraft while Air Force One was used as a decoy. The same tactics were used again to keep the president's real aircraft uncertain. The C-32A carrying Trump reached Britain at around 10:20 p.m. local time. The older Air Force One and the traveling press arrived minutes later. But one question still remains unanswered. How exactly was Trump transferred back to the larger aircraft? Trump then appeared at the top of stairs of the older Air Force One. He gave reporters a peace sign. He did not stop for questions. Instead, he greeted US service members before walking towards the newly donated Qatari aircraft. The deception had worked, at least for the flight out of Turkey. But the story did not end there. After Trump returned to Washington, the security of the new aircraft came under renewed scrutiny. The White House said the Qatari-donated jet had been fitted with high-level security protocols to protect the president and his staff. But the concerns remained over how closely its defensive systems matched of older Air Force One aircraft. Qatar donated the luxury Boeing 747-8 after Trump criticized the aging Air Force One fleet. The aircraft was meant to serve as a temporary presidential jet until the new Boeing aircraft ordered by the US government are ready. But the events in Ankara have exposed the security challenge surrounding that transition. It was more than a change of aircraft. It was a carefully planned security operation, hidden in plain sight. And by the time the secret came to light, Trump was already safely out of Turkey.
Hey, everybody, Bradley Whitford here with the fact that all 3 million Americans living abroad need to know. You can vote in the 2026 midterm elections happening this fall. Senate, House, whole balance of Congress is up for grabs. If you're a citizen, you can get a ballot. My friends at the Center for U.S. Voters Abroad Turnout Project made it simple. Just click this ad, one form, 5 minutes, you're done. Your friends and family back home are counting on you. So get your ballot.
What would you say to a woman who's doing everything right and still gaining?
At 38, I was a size 6. At 44, I'm a
President Trump is not backing down. He has put a new price on the table before any deal gets done. The demand lands as talks over the Strait of Hormuz hits a wall. And on the other side, Iran is rewriting its own chain of command. Trump's latest move comes as both sides try to set the terms for any future agreement. Washington and Tehran have been trading demands, but Trump has now made clear that his own terms will also be part of any talks.
Yeah, well, we're going to ask for money for the damage they've done over a 50-year period. Whether you go SS Cole or whether you go all of the people that were so badly hurt, so badly wounded or killed, many thousands of people, and maybe damages for the 52,000 protesters over the last 4 months that were killed in Iran. We think their families.
Donald Trump finds himself in deeper misery, an absolute embarrassment tonight, as shocking new reports emerge that the war with Iran is taking an unprecedented psychological toll on US military personnel, culminating in a wave of attempted suicides. Yes, attempted suicides on board the USS Abraham Lincoln. Meanwhile, the escalation in the region has reached a boiling point after the UAE alleged that 2 of its commercial ships were struck in the Strait of Hormuz. Seizing on the chaos, Iranian Foreign Minister Sayyid Abbas Araghchi has taken a ruthless public dig at the deranged occupant of the White House, mocking Trump's routine humiliation at the hands of the Islamic Republic. But the global fallout isn't just happening in the waters. It has spilled directly onto the sporting field. At the ongoing European Athletic Championship, a Spanish commentator made waves on live television by choosing to completely ignore an Israeli athlete during the broadcast. This comes alongside an absolute masterclass on British soil, where Irish runner Mark English has created history moments ago by capturing the first ever individual men's gold medal for Ireland at the championships. This is the broad focus of my video tonight. But we also look at a lighter moment to wrap things up, especially English cricket legend Stuart Broad's hilarious mix-up during yesterday's spectacular solar eclipse. So please stay tuned. Right now, 5,000 American sailors and Marines are trapped in living hell in the Middle East. Several media outlets today reported that morale has cratered so severely on the USS Abraham Lincoln that desperate soldiers are actively attempting suicide, trying to throw themselves overboard after a brutal, unending 250-day deployment. This is the true hidden cost of the current administration's reckless war strategy. Watch this detailed reporting by CNN.
Tonight, a shocking new report that multiple sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln have tried to jump overboard amid poor conditions and mental stress on the ship. This is according to new reporting from the Military Times, which spoke to the wife of one of those sailors, who says she's spoken to her husband only a handful of times since he tried to jump. He is now on a medical hold. The Military Times is also reporting severe food shortages on board and that sailors are running out of just basic needs, toothpaste, deodorant, soap. This crew has been at sea for 9 months amid Trump's war in Iran. That includes 250 consecutive days without setting foot on land. 250 consecutive days. That is a record. Out front now, Natalie Olivero. She is the Military Times journalist who broke the story, and she is also a Navy veteran. Natalie, I appreciate your time. I mean, the details you have in this story are really stunning. I mean, my jaw drops. You know, we're talking about the USS Abraham Lincoln, and you're talking about things that I think people struggle to understand are happening in the U.S. military. You've spoken directly with some of these families, and you're reporting on incidents involving sailors apparently trying to jump overboard. You spoke to the wife of one of them, I know, and her husband served in the Navy for more than a dozen years, 13 years. So what have you learned?
Thanks for having me, Erin, and for covering this story. Speaking with Ms. Saloma, she is extremely worried and concerned about how her husband is actually doing, and until she can be in front of him and see him with her own eyes, she's not really going to be able to answer that question. And facing the stresses that every military spouse faces when theirs is deployed is being a solo parent at home with 3 little kids. So not being able to have answers or direction is really challenging right now for her especially.
Sustainable online business growth, connecting audiences and providing business value. Digital marketing strategies all confident, so staying informed about current trends is essential. Content creation, email marketing, and search engine optimization are foundational skills for anyone looking to grow an online presence. Diversifying income streams helps create financial stability over time. Learning from established entrepreneurs and investing in education can accelerate your journey. Consistency and patience are key virtues in the digital economy. Building trust with your audience and friends.
Actually,
The longer this conflict dragged on, the more the myth of absolute American military dominance was stripped away. First, it was the humiliating weapons and munition shortages. Then came the absolute absurdity of the commander-in-chief, I'm talking about Donald Trump, being secretly smuggled out of an airport inside a catering truck just to evade an Iranian threat. And now we are witnessing a systemic mental health collapse on American flagship aircraft carriers. Remember, when this administration boldly predicted the swift, inevitable collapse of the Iranian government, look at where we are today. Who is smiling now? It certainly isn't the White House, and it definitely isn't his warmongering cabinet colleagues who engineered this endless trap. For decades, the world was told that the US Navy was an untouchable, invincible force of global power. But this conflict has completely shattered that myth. Look at the reality. The multi-billion-dollar USS Gerald Ford, hailed as the most advanced warship in human history, was literally forced out of active duty and crippled by a fire that started in a laundry room. Think about that. The same fleet that boasts about global dominance is plagued by embarrassing systemic failures, from basic logistics to reports of entire aircraft carrier toilet systems completely clogging up under pressure. Who would have thought that an illegal attack on Iran would completely expose this vulnerability, showing the world that the imperial machine isn't just overextended, it is actively rotting from the inside out. Meanwhile, the UAE has said that 2 ships belonging to Abu Dhabi National Oil Company were attacked while transiting the Strait of Hormuz this evening. The United Arab Emirates state news agency, WAM, said that no injuries were reported and the situation was brought under control. But the UAE's foreign ministry has condemned the attack. Now let's look at the journalistic dishonesty of CNN. You have to watch this clip first.
An exclusive CNN K-File investigation is landing tonight on Michigan's Democratic Senate nominee Abdul El Sayed. It reveals more than 100 videos on his YouTube channel that appear to have been made private before he launched his campaign. Now, CNN reviewed archived transcripts of those videos, and they're on very different topics, but their deletion is notable. In one, El Sayed floated the replacing the Second Amendment's right to bear arms with a constitutional right to health care. In another, he dismissed GOP concerns about the security of the southern border. And in another, he asked Americans to, quote, please find another way to celebrate the 4th of July, promising 4 reasons, quote, why fireworks suck. K-File's Andrew Kaczynski uncovered all of this, and he joins me now. So, Andrew, I mean, you really had to go digging for this, because this is videos where, you know, they've been deleted, is the whole point. So you found them, were able to go through the transcripts of the videos, and what did you find?
Well, Aaron, this is all part of a broader pattern that we found with Abdul El Sayed. He spent years as a prolific commentator before launching his Senate campaign, and we had previously covered on this show that he deleted a lot of tweets about defund the police. Now, what we have found now is more than 100 of his YouTube videos on his YouTube channel that appear to have been made private. And one thing that is worth noting here is that his campaign now says that these don't reflect his beliefs today. But one thing that's worth pointing out is this really isn't a distant archive. These are comments from the last 4 years, with one of these videos posted as recently as 2 years ago. I want to run through a few of them of what we found. Now, you did mention that 4th of July video. You can see the taken down video right there from July 2024. El Sayed cited air pollution from Detroit, fireworks, chemicals used in fireworks, PTSD among veterans, and risk to children and pets. And he asked if Americans could find another way to celebrate. And Aaron, that is really just one example. In another that we found from April 2023, after a school shooting in Tennessee, El Sayed floated replacing the Second Amendment right to bear arms with a constitutional right to health care, saying, what if we tweaked the Constitution, amended the amendment, and instead of the right to bear arms, we changed it to the right to have health care?
CNN is mischievously trying to weaponize old deleted YouTube videos to frame a progressive candidate as unpatriotic. What was his great crime according to their corporate reporting? He once asked if Americans could celebrate the 4th of July without fireworks, rationally pointing out the adverse environmental impacts, toxicity, and how they trigger veterans suffering from PTSD. In another video, according to the CNN, they treat his call to end America's toxic gun culture as some kind of radical scandal. In a country plagued by frequent devastating mass shootings, wanting to end gun violence isn't problematic. It is common sense. But the corporate media lobby has clearly activated its sleeper cells. They are terrified because El Sayed is fiercely anti-Israel, who refuses to rubber stamp billions in tax dollars for foreign wars and apartheid. They couldn't stop this progressive powerhouse in the primary. And now the entire warmongering elite is trembling with fear at the very real possibility of Abdul El Sayed making history as the first Muslim senator by crushing Mike Rogers this November. The humiliation inflicted by Iran isn't just limited to the Americans or the Israelis. The Islamic Republic has single-handedly brought permanent shame upon the corrupt Arab world. Most crucially, the UAE, a regime that has fully fallen into the lap of Israel's genocidal maniacs in recent years. The war with Iran has completely demolished the UAE's carefully manufactured image as a safe haven for wealthy Western elites, triggering a massive, unprecedented exodus of capital and residents. Frustrated by this global humiliation at the hands of Tehran, the UAE regime has completely lost its mind. To mask the bleeding economy, they have launched an over-the-top, desperate campaign to woo Western investors back into their real estate market. You only have to open your Instagram feed right now to see the sheer bombardment of property ads from desperate UAE-based companies. But it gets much more sinister. Simultaneously, Abu Dhabi has unleashed a wave of state-backed influencers, many of whom can't even read the Holy Quran, let alone practice the fundamental tenets of Islam, with a direct mandate to defame Islam and Muslims in the West. This isn't new. It's an extension of the millions of pounds the UAE spent years ago bankrolling Islamophobic networks across Europe. Now their primary focus is to defame, target, and dehumanize the UK's growing Muslim population by disingenuously projecting all of them as agents of the Muslim Brotherhood. Take a look at this clip of a prominent UAE state-backed influencer, Rauda Al-Taneji.
See that? If you're over 50, that's a sedentary life's belly. Going to the gym can only make it worse, because all of that puts stress on a body that's already fighting it. Military calisthenics fat burn challenge works differently. It burns fat and rebuilds strength without overloading your system. No gym, no diets, no equipment, no joint pain. Just 15 minutes a day.
I'm 46, and today I'm switching from doing nothing to
Rauda Al-Taneji.
People of the West, wake up. This is happening.
Islam will be in every household. Inshallah, the whole world is Muslim.
The reason the West doesn't really understand or can't comprehend what the Muslim Brotherhood is doing is because the Muslim Brotherhood instills the fear of, oh, what if it's Islamophobic?
Islamophobia.
Islamophobia.
I want to criticize the Muslim Brotherhood. They want you to think that you're preaching Islamophobia, and they might sue you. They might make your criticism expensive for you to see.
There's an invasion that's happening by the Muslim Brotherhood in the West. They're not going to use the same tactics that they did before because that was a different time. Now they're going to use it through PR strategies and inclusivity meetings and all those nice sounding words. But the end goal of that is to eventually instill a caliphate system in the UK. Or in the West.
You think it's that serious?
I believe so.
How well do you think they're doing?
Well, at the moment, they're doing very well. They're doing very well.
Mind you, this woman lives in the UAE, a completely despotic regime, where elections and freedom of speech are completely banned. Yet, she has the absolute audacity to lecture the West and urge the UK government to crack down on the freedoms of British Muslims. This is the exact same woman who was previously seen kissing the hands of Israeli Zionists. And let's not forget the dark reality beneath this regime's shiny facade. The documented involvement of key figures from the UAE elite in global blackmail and child abuse networks, echoing the worst excesses of the international pedophile scandals. Back to Iran, where Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has questioned France's right to lecture others on morality and human rights following a joint statement by Paris and over 30 other nations condemning Iran's use of the death penalty and execution of protesters. Araghchi asserted that French support for Israel in Gaza and regional actions against Iran nullify any claims to a moral high ground regarding international law. He wrote, and I quote, "Countries like France should stop lecturing the world about human rights and international law. The hypocrisy is blatant and embarrassing. Your backing of Israel's genocide in Gaza and aggression against Iran has destroyed whatever moral high ground you imagined you had." End quote. Araghchi also took a potshot at Trump over his miscalculation on the Iran conflict. He wrote, and I quote, "The US has long miscalculated due to intelligence failures. Case in point, the war on Iran. Now an even bigger miscalculation on the Strait of Hormuz. Worse than fake news is fake intelligence. Be careful. Allah is great, greater than any power on earth. In Allah we trust." End quote. Now let's move to some massive news coming straight from my neck of the woods at the Alexander Stadium here in Birmingham, where the European